We go big for Halloween.
Do you?
This is actually part of a Halloween costume I had a few years ago where I was Gomez Adams. You probably don't get as many people knocking up.
No, not really. I just kind of make sure I don't answer the door.
Yeah. Scrooge over here. Pumpkin and squash special this week, aren't we?
Pumpkin versus squash.
Yes.
Who will win?
The world's largest pumpkin festival. Any ideas where it might be?
Hello, I'm Jimmy Walton, otherwise known as Metals and Petals.
And I'm Martha Swales of Marth's Kitchen Garden.
And welcome back to our podcast, Homegrown.
But if you're not familiar with us already, we are two gardeners with very different backgrounds. I got into growing food because I love eating, and I fill my little London garden with as much edible stuff as I can.
And I'm an ecological horticulturalist based in North Yorkshire, and I grow food and flowers in line with nature.
And in Homegrown, we celebrate the best of growing your own, from a little window box all the way up to a full-size allotment.
And we'll prove that you don't need a lot of space to grow a meaningful amount of food. Welcome
to Homegrown. Hello, Jamie.
Hello, Martha.
I've got a new mug this week.
It's not that exciting, is it?
No.
I've got my pod mug, and you've got
another mug from the kitchen here at the podcast studio. But honestly, next time I'm going to bring a whole. These shelves are going to just be full of mugs.
Of your mugs.
Of my holiday mugs. I like to get a mug every time I go on holiday.
I do like a good mug.
Oh, so do I. I started with fridge magnets, and now it's both. You know, every time I go anywhere, I need to have a fridge magnet and a mug. There's not really much space on the shelf anymore, actually. So, as you can see from our incredibly elaborately decorated, not last minute
It
at
feels like
all.
we're almost in a haunted house.
I know, isn't it?
There's a thing hand.
Yes, this is actually part of a Halloween costume I had a few years ago where I was Gomez Adams.
Okay.
Oh, I'll show you a picture.
Of you as Gomez Adams.
Yeah, it is really good. I had like a pinstripe suit, I had matching tie and like a little pocket,
Cool.
you know, moustache, hair slicked back. It is good. So I had to bring Thing with me.
Because Thing was on your shoulder.
Because Thing just came with me anyway. I couldn't get rid of him. And this is just a tiny fraction of the Halloween decorations that we have at our house because we go big for Halloween.
Do you?
Oh yeah, Halloween parties, full dress up. One year, my housemate painted an entire backdrop so that people could have photos in front of a spooky scene. We covered the wall in like bats. Wow. We did. We've got like a pumpkin-shaped drinks dispenser,
nice.
Which I was going to bring, but you know,
just
on the tube
for our herbal teas.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? And pumpkin pie. I love roasting chestnuts.
Go for it. Yeah. I just kind of make sure I don't answer the door.
Yeah. Scrooge over here. No, well, I mean, you probably don't get as many people knocking up.
No, not really. Never.
Oh, I mean, if you so much as, you know, put a pumpkin outside your front door in London where I live, which is very densely populated, you will get ransacked. Like 30 kids in a couple of hours. So
that's cool.
We always have to stock up. So I'm a big fan of Halloween. And in the name of Halloween, we're going to do a pumpkin and squash special this week, aren't we?
Pumpkin versus squash, potentially. Kind of.
Yes.
Pumpkin v squash. Who will win? And we haven't actually got a carved pumpkin. We've got a carved squash.
Yes. One might think that is a clever sort of trick about what we're going to be talking about, but it is in fact just what we had. I've just carved this expertly now with my penknife.
But it ties into what we're going to talk about. And it was expertly carved, Martha, I have to say.
Thank you. Well, I'm quite a fan of sort of whittling and this sort of thing. You know, I did a wood carving course.
Nice.
As you can see, actually, from this incredible...
You
whittled that very
squash.
Elaborate face into that butternut squash. Do you like pumpkins and squash, Jamie?
Squash. Yeah, over pumpkins.
Oh, I can see why it's called pumpkin versus squash now.
Mm-hmm. So we'll get into that maybe later on. But I definitely am a fan of squash over pumpkin.
Okay. And I imagine, because you've obviously got a very big space to grow in, that it's perfect because when I've got a little garden, it's quite difficult to find, the varieties are going to be small enough. But presumably you can just absolutely go to town.
Yeah, this year, struggled again though because of the water situation.
Yeah.
But I did have that's because it's actually quite nice. We've discussed mulching techniques and ways to cover ground if you want to create beds. I think that was on the Q&A, somebody had asked that.
Yeah, and no dig as well. We've talked about it in there.
And no dig. And what can be quite nice, if you have a big space, is you could we used hay, covered the ground in hay, and then planted squash and pumpkin plants in that, and let those take over the entire space, act as another kind of mulch.
Yeah, they keep all the moisture underneath their big leaves, right?
Yeah, and then you've got loads of nice pumpkins and squashes, and then squash.
Squish.
Squish, squash.
Squashes.
So you get, and then at the end of the growing season, when you move into the next, you can then create beds on top of all of that mulch.
If I ever had a huge space to fill, I would grow pumpkins and squash because I just find them very charming. I used to have a lot more space to grow in than I do now. When I had a full-size allotment, I used to have so many different varieties, and my home over the winter, I used to live in a flat that was like in a converted house, so it had a big fireplace.
Yeah,
like the fire didn't work, but I just had this sort of shrine of pumpkins and squash, so I would just have them all there. And I know you're meant to sort of store them in more proper conditions than this, but I was living in a tiny flat in London with no garden, and I just kept them in the house, and as long as you dried them and cured them properly, I would just, whenever we wanted to cook one for dinner, I'd just pick it up off the fireplace, and they lasted through to March, pretty much the following year. And they tasted better the longer they were there, because obviously they get more sweet the longer they've kind of been left as a general rule.
I don't have a specific kind of storage facility for them or anything. I just put them near the wood burner. Yeah. Let them cure for a few weeks, and then just keep them in the kitchen or whatever, just wherever they can go, really, as long as it's not kind of too hot or too cold. Yeah. They'll just, I've had them for 9 months. Yeah. Stored for 9 months.
Well,
some of the bigger ones.
And when we get into the different varieties, there's obviously some that store better than others, but that's a little teaser for some of the exciting gardening content we've got coming up for you. Right. Should we get into the show?
Let's do it.
So this is obviously the trivia moment that we like to begin each episode with.
So I don't know about you at home, but this is my favourite part of the podcast. Martha's Fun Fact or History Corner.
So this week I would like to just kick off with the world's largest pumpkin festival. Any ideas where it might be?
The States.
That is what I would have guessed.
Yeah.
But,
Italy?
No. It's in Germany.
Germany.
It's the Ludwigsburg Pumpkin Festival. It's near Stuttgart, which is down in the south of Germany. And it's held in the grounds of a Baroque castle that has its own Rapunzel tower and fairy tale garden.
That's pretty cool.
It's pretty cool. And to be honest, now that I've seen it, I want to go. We're talking 450,000 pumpkins. Wow. 600 different varieties. And not only that, they create sculptures out of them. And they've got different themes each year. And so there's full on several foot high sculptures made out of piled up pumpkins. They carve pumpkins. You can also have a whole range of pumpkin foods. Okay. So we're talking bratwurst with pumpkin seeds in it, deep fried pumpkin that you can dip in ice cream, stuffed pumpkin dumplings, spatzel with pumpkin, and even pumpkin prosecco.
Yeah, okay.
Have I sold it to you yet? Are you booking your trip over to Stuttgart as we speak?
I'm just considering what happens to all of these pumpkins. And obviously you've said that they make some kind of food from them, so that's a good start. But then I'm imagining these sculptures don't end up as bratwurst.
No, that's actually a really good point, Jamie, and I hadn't got as far as considering that, so I haven't got an answer for you. But if anyone has ever been to the Ludwigsburg Pumpkin Festival, or indeed runs it, maybe you could let us know what happens to all the pumpkins. But I will say that if you want to go, I'm just going to continue with my, it sounds really fun.
It does sound fun.
It's from late August through to beginning of November. So actually, unless you're going in the next few days, it's going to be too late. But maybe something for next year.
It's a lengthy one.
I know. Well, they do it. So that's September and October pretty much. And yeah, it's actually not extortionately expensive to go either. It was €6 for kids, 7 for students and 14 for adults.
Not bad.
Not bad. I mean, if you're used to living in London, that is an absolute steal. So, you know, probably cheaper to fly there and go to the pumpkin festival than to...
Yeah, where I am, North Yorkshire, there's quite a few farms that have pumpkin picking.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you don't actually go and pick a pumpkin because they're already picked.
Oh.
They just kind of like put them in a field, or they pick them and then put them back in the field. I'm not entirely sure. But you don't go and actually choose one, cut it and pick it. You just go and pick one from
Oh, that's a bit disappointing.
Yeah, it's not that exciting.
Is it actually mostly a photo opportunity for people to take their kids and put them in front of like a pumpkin and a tractor?
Yeah, and you do take one with you. You do choose one, but you don't
get to pick it.
Harvest it, no.
It's more just like, you know, a sort of free-range supermarket, pumpkin supermarket.
Yeah.
And of course, it's the time of year for giant veg.
Yeah.
And the biggest veg I've ever grown was a pumpkin, which weighed in at 30 kilos.
30 kilos. And that's a hefty pumpkin.
I actually got sent very kindly by a giant veg grower back in the early days when I used to tweet about veg growing, and they sent me some Atlantic giant pumpkin seeds, and I grew this 30 kilo pumpkin, and then I carved it, and then I took my baby toddler nephew. I'm so sorry, Rafe. He's now he's now 12, but I just put him in the pumpkin and he cried so
I'm
much.
not surprised. I bet it was
cold and wet.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was me being an idiot, but you know, he's turned out all right.
I've seen. I think I've seen them on the packet. They have like a child sat on one, I think.
Yeah, I don't think you're meant to put the child in the pumpkin.
just on it.
But it was so big. It was like a giant cauldron.
I actually have some seed. I haven't grown any yet.
We got the space.
I should have done. Yeah, I should have done.
Pumpkin growing competition. That's what we did one year. Like family sent round, you know, particularly if you've got family that live in the countryside, and then you can do.
So everyone gets some seeds. And
you all get the same seeds. Yeah, and then you know.
That's pretty cool.
If you've still got a spare spot on the old community garden, you could run a little community pumpkin growing competition.
Yeah, that sounds cool. I had a large courgette.
Oh, yeah.
We briefly mentioned on a previous episode about large. You brought in a huge kohlrabi, hadn't you? So, and I had a courgette that I'd missed.
Yeah.
As you do. There's always one, isn't there? I'd missed, and it got to a silly size, really, that it's just going to be woody and not very tasty. So I just thought I'd just leave it until now. So I harvested it like 2 days ago, and I think it's about 10 kilos.
Blimey.
Yeah, so I'll put a picture up.
Yes, please.
On the screen of me holding it, smiling, proud. But it's I don't know what I'm going to do with it. But it's enormous. It's huge.
Do you reckon the outside's almost like sort of calcified into like a kind of...
It's like some kind of like animal. Like it's like a huge... I don't know. It just has that kind of vibe.
It's got like energy.
Like an anaconda vibe. Yeah, it's like enormous.
Blimey. Where have you put it?
It's just in the polytunnel. I harvested it, and it was. I would have brought it down from North Yorkshire, but I thought on the train it's going to be quite cumbersome, right? With my bags and then a 10 kilo courgette that's like this big.
Well, I'm very disappointed you didn't attempt it.
So picture is as good as it gets, but
I'll take that. And
we've also got a competition for next year on who can grow the biggest veg and the most impressive veg, haven't we? So we need to stick to that and remember that we've got. We'll go to the Malvern show next year as well.
Yes, definitely.
I'd like to go. Haven't been. So anyway, let's get back into how to grow pumpkins and squash if you want to, and the varieties that we maybe grow.
Perfect. So, time of year. Mm-hmm. Spring sowing. Mm-hmm. And do you tend to do them in pots or just straight in the ground? What's your approach on your estate? Community garden.
Modules. So I sow them into modules after the last chance of frost. And then I'll pot them up and then plant them out when they're kind of larger plants. after they've got like three true leaves.
Yeah. And so after the last frost, which I imagine is later for you up there.
A little bit, I think. Probably about 10th of May-ish, mid-May.
Oh, actually, that's... Yeah, okay.
It's not... I don't imagine... What's yours?
I probably would, do them around May as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I can get away with April sometimes, but if you get a late frost, obviously.
You can keep them covered or whatever, can't you?
Yes. So I'm pretty space constricted, so I'm always looking for like small varieties. And one of my favourite things I did was like a pumpkin archway. I'm just going to use pumpkin as a word for pumpkins and squashes. Or I grow like smaller varieties. The only one I've brought in today is this tiny little spaghetti squash, and it is small, but the variety is meant to be lots of small spaghetti squash rather than any big ones. Don't even think spaghetti squash is necessarily up there with my favourite varieties, but it was small and I planted it amongst the corn. Do you grow lots of different varieties? What are your faves?
Yeah, I mean, I think for small spaces, there's one I haven't grown it, but I've seen it. I think it's called acorn.
Yeah.
And that's a small variety, like a compact variety that you could grow in a pot anywhere, really. And they're kind of more or less that size.
They're quite cute, and they've got quite thick skins as well, so they keep quite well.
They store pretty well. So acorn's a good one for a small space. I like Crown Prince. I'd probably say that's my favourite. Big kind of blue. They've got like a blue colouring. Kind of look like a pumpkin, like your standard pumpkin would look.
Yeah.
But the blue, and store for much longer and taste much better.
And inside they're orange, just...
Yeah. Which is quite nice. You've got the blue against the orange when you cut into them. And yeah, I'd say they're my favourite if I had to choose.
I think they're beautiful, and I have grown them quite a few times because my mum grew up in New Zealand and her dad used to grow lots of veg, and mum always used to talk about growing up with pumpkins because of the shape of it. She would refer to it as a pumpkin, and you just didn't 10, 15 years ago, you wouldn't be able to find a squash like that in the supermarket. You still don't see them very often. No. And so mum would be like, oh, we used to eat pumpkin loads when I was growing up, and it was like proper orange inside. So when I started growing things, I was like, is this what it is? And it was just nice. It's just nice when someone's told you a story about something that you can then be like, oh, I can grow it. Here you go. So I love a Crown Prince. And I'd say they're sort of a medium size as well. They're not like the hugest space consuming.
Can be. It depends. Like I've grown some pretty hefty ones before.
Oh, yeah.
But I mean...
That big?
Kind of that size, maybe.
For those just watching.
I was going to say, what's that like?
That's like a foot across.
Yeah. There's another one called, I think it's called Hubbard Blue. Look very similar, but they're a little bit bigger.
Have you ever seen the jumbo pink banana?
I've grown them before, yeah.
Yeah, they're pretty cool, aren't they?
Yeah.
They, as the name suggests, they're like a long sausage-shaped squash.
And they're usually yellow with like a green end.
Yeah, and they kind of like ripen to just sort of dusty pink.
Yeah.
And then they're like orange inside as well, which is very nice.
Uchiki curry.
Yeah, the little orange onion squash.
Bright orange ones. They're fun. I like growing those. They're the two I grow every year, and then I just kind of, I'll usually grow maybe 2 or 3 varieties that I haven't grown before just to test.
I'm quite a fan of one called, I'm not going to say this right, Rouge Vive d'Antompe.
Okay.
And it is a beautiful, bright orange, sort of Cinderella pumpkin. So it grows pretty well, in the years where some, my allotment can be very hit and miss. I'm talking about growing on the allotment because I don't really grow them in my garden, but over the years, sometimes some plants produce very little, but there's always at least one beautiful orange, and I'm talking like a deep orange, like the colour of these decorations. And shape of Cinderella, but they're not like a carving pumpkin. They're very much like a deep orange fleshed, tasty, what we would be talking about in a minute, squash, I guess. So that's just a very pretty pumpkin.
Yeah.
Pumpkin squash pumpkin.
And I also grow squash with 3 sisters. Well, it is one of the 3 sisters. And I've grown the 3 sisters 3 ways this year. Outside.
And for those that don't know, what is...
So the 3 sisters are squash, beans and corn.
And it's like an ancient South American growing technique of growing them together.
Yeah, it's an indigenous method. And they grow in kind of symbiosis, really. They support one another. So you've got the corn that grows nice and tall, and the beans use that as a trellis, essentially. And they also add nitrogen into the soil, which helps the others grow. And then the squash acts as kind of like a living mulch, ground cover, retaining moisture in the soil, stopping other things growing. And then they're all great for storage, so you can store them all over winter, which is really nice. And I've grown them three ways this year. I grew them in the polytunnel together, outside, and also in a pot.
In a pot?
Yeah.
How much corn did you plant in the pot?
3 small, like a compact variety, and then 1 squash plant and just beans around it. It was relatively successful. It was all right. Got like 2 squash, quite a few beans. The beans I put in the pot were the yard long. Have you grown those before?
Oh, no, I haven't, but I've seen them.
They're just these huge fingers. And because of the weather this year, that's one thing that has really liked this hot, fairly dry weather. Yeah. The Three Sisters. Outside, they've done really well. Polytunnel, maybe a little bit too hot, but still done all right. So yeah, it's a fun way of growing.
Oh, definitely. I've done it in the past, and even I didn't quite do it properly this year because I had my corn and beans, and then the sort of squashes were near them, but not sort of interplanted. But I still sort of end up always putting them near to each other. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's a spring crop to plant. You've probably got a window between April and maybe June in the UK. Yeah. To plant your pumpkin and squash seeds.
Yeah, getting a bit late by June, but you can still probably
maybe like early. So we're talking really April, May, aren't we?
Yeah, you could try if you're early June, if we have a hot kind of autumn, warm.
And then you basically bung them in the ground. They like lots of organic matter, which if you've been doing your no-dig or preparing your beds, they'll have anyway. And they do like quite a bit of water. How have you found it with the drought?
Tough.
Yeah.
Tough, yeah.
Well, they're probably made up of quite a lot of water, actually.
Yeah, they didn't. The ones in the Three Sisters beds were great. The ones that were planted on the patch that was there to mulch didn't love life really this year.
No.
They're kind of quite small, and there's a good amount of them, but they didn't take over the entire space as they usually would. Yeah. So yeah, hit and miss, but still got a fair amount.
I'm going to do some Plant Science Geek for us now, actually.
Nice.
Because I always like to know how plants are related and where they came from. Pumpkins and squash are in a genus of plants called cucurbits. I mean, I've seen this written down so many times, I've never said it out loud. And that includes things like cucumbers, melons, and they originate from Central and South America. And within that is the cucurbiters. So they're literally the bigger genus is called cucurbits, and then within that the bit that's called cucurbita is the pumpkins and squash. But there are in fact 5. I'm not going to go into 2 of the lesser known ones, but there's 3 different sort of species groups. And it's quite interesting because I think you'd agree that a Halloween pumpkin tastes of nothing. Mm-hmm. It's got thin, fibrous walls, lots of seed, and it's not got like the dense orange flesh that you might have in, I guess, what we're referring to as winter squashes, but they might be pumpkin shaped. But just like with the Crown Prince, you've got dense orange flesh and a thick skin. And that's because they're within these different kind of subsets. And so starting off with cucurbita peppo? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really sound like an expert now. I've seen these things written down so many times, but I never say them out loud. Peppo, I'm going to say. If anyone would like to correct me, feel free to email us at homegrown@joypeddlers.com. So we've got the cucurbita peppos. So this first group, domesticated in Mexico probably around 9,000 years ago, and it's got courgettes, summer squashes, marrows, so all those kind of quite watery summer squashes.
The things you probably want to harvest when they're small.
When they're small, exactly. And then it's also got things like this. So this is spaghetti squash. Mm-hmm. Also pretty watery inside. We're not talking like much, it's not got a deep flavour. It's not very sweet.
Really, no.
And within that group, is the field pumpkin, or the one that we carve for Halloween pumpkins. Mm-hmm. I'd never thought of Halloween pumpkins as being akin to the dense fleshed squashes that like are so tasty. But now that I understand that they're in the same group as marrows and courgettes, like it makes total sense because they are like watery, and that's why we carve them and don't tend to. I mean, there are things you can do. You can toast the seeds. You could probably blitz it up and put it into like a cake because of the moisture, but you haven't got a lot of flavour.
Pumpkin soup's okay if you kind of use
put loads of other stuff
spices
in it. So that's the first group, and I think that really is quite enlightening about the field pumpkin or Halloween pumpkin. Second group, I actually only discovered doing the research for this. So it's called Cucurbita muscata, and I, again, might be saying that completely wrong. So this is kind of halfway between the kind of watery squashes, the courgettes and the field pumpkins, and the dense fleshed, rich pumpkins and squashes that are going to be in the third group coming up. And it's only got a few things in it, but you might not be surprised to hear that it's got butternut squash, but also, this is one that you've grown.
My prop for today.
Tell us what this is.
Turn it around, it looks better the other side. That's
Oh, sorry, yeah.
That's the side that's been on the ground. But so this is a tromboncino.
And a lot of people grow these and harvest them green, like a courgette, right?
Yeah, you can do, yeah.
But they, of course, when you leave them, end up looking like a butternut squash.
Yeah, just interesting shapes.
Yeah.
And it's actually the first year I've grown them. I've been aware of them, but I haven't grown them before. But I was told that they were a nice kind of middle ground. So they taste better than a courgette. You can harvest them like courgettes. They sprawl more than a courgette plant, but they actually taste much better, and they store for longer. And you can, if you allow them to kind of fully mature, they store really well.
And then when you cut them open, after you've kept them to this level of maturity, they're orange on the inside. So for those of you that can't see, do a quick Google of a tromboncino. They can get into really unusual shapes. They're much longer than a butternut squash, but...
That's actually a really small one. That was one of the smallest ones there because I had to bring it down from North Yorkshire on the train. But there's like a couple of them are this like huge kind of... in really interesting shapes. Like one of them is kind of like turned in on itself, and they're fun to grow. Definitely.
And I actually grew this on my pumpkin archway a few years ago.
Oh, really?
And because it was hanging, this one is curved into a C shape, everybody. But because this one was hanging, it was straight and it was a metre long.
Yeah.
So it was just like a metre long, thin squash, and the seeds are at the bottom like the butternut. But this group, you can see that they're related. So they're sort of halfway in between. They've got like a nice orange flesh, but you can eat them when they're still green, and the skin is thicker than you'd find on like a courgette or a field pumpkin, but it's certainly not the really thick skin that you find on a proper storing winter squash. So that's the middle group. Mm-hmm. And then it brings us to the final group, which I think is our favourite.
It's the most exciting group, yeah.
You know you're in deep on like gardening geekery when you're like, we're coming to the category that we like the best, very exciting. The Cucurbita maxima.
Yeah.
So thought to originate in Peru. Mm-hmm. And this is the thick-skinned, dense orange flesh, loads of flavour family. So we're talking the Hubbard squashes, the curry squashes, the banana squash that we talked about, jumbo pink banana, the Rouge Vif d'Antompe, the Cinderella orange pumpkin, the Crown Prince is also in there. So it's got really good storing properties, really good eating properties. It's got just so many different colours, shapes,
sizes.
Exactly. So I think that probably does win it, doesn't it?
It's the winner, for sure. And they've all got the place, haven't they? Like this year I've grown all three and enjoyed all three in different ways. Courgettes, we all grow courgettes, don't we? And I think it's nice to have the small courgettes, and they produce much quicker.
I love courgettes.
Yeah.
I think that group, though, when I was less excited about it, is as a winter storing one, which is the only version of that in that group is obviously the field pumpkin, the Halloween pumpkin, and that's where it just doesn't really.
I mean, marrows will store fairly well, but they're not that exciting.
Gosh, a marrow. The only person I know that eats marrows is my dad, and when he does a diet, he'll boil up like a whole marrow and eat it with cheese on.
Nice.
It's not good. And that's the only person in my life that I've ever met that eats marrow.
Yeah.
But I mean, you know, good for him.
Yeah.
So anyway, that rounds off my voyage into the different groups of squash and pumpkins. But I enjoyed reading about that because it suddenly made sense of why some of them are better than others.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to be returning for another geek moment later on in the episode, but
we'll look forward to that.
Yeah. Over to you. What have you got for us this week?
Well, we've already kind of briefly touched on it. Again, pumpkin versus squash, and that I favour squash over pumpkin. So yeah, I think with Halloween this week, there'll be a lot of people buying pumpkins to carve and to put outside, and I enjoy all of that. You enjoy it more than I do, but but I think we need to also think about the waste involved, because I saw some statistics that were quite scary. It's quite apt, bear in mind it's Halloween, but I think they were. I think it was something along the lines of, in the UK alone, around about 15 million pumpkins are wasted each year. 15 million, yeah, on average each year.
That does not surprise me, because I think you just see them sat outside houses until they literally start to fall to pieces, and then they go in the bin as well. People don't really even put them in the compost, right?
Yeah, and there's things you could do with them. Obviously, you can put them in the compost. You could use them to make certain things we've already discussed that aren't necessarily that exciting. You know, like pumpkin seeds, or you can make like a pumpkin soup. Some wildlife sanctuaries will take them.
Oh, what, to feed to animals?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a nice one.
Yeah, sometimes. But yeah, generally they just end up in the bin, and that's a lot of food waste, right?
Yeah.
And I think there are alternatives that we've discussed, say like the Crown Prince, that look very similar. In fact, it's quite cool that they're kind of like a blue instead of an orange. And because they're blue, and then if you did carve into them and then use them afterwards, they're kind of orange inside, so they still look nice. Or what I generally do is I just kind of decorate the outside of them so that you're not, so you can still store them afterwards.
Yes.
So that's a nice way you can use like, you can stick things on them. People generally will like stick kind of flowers on them and make them look all nice and pretty, or you can kind of draw faces on them instead, and then they'll still store. It's not quite as exciting, but still, you've got plenty of options, haven't you?
And I also think there's so many different beautiful varieties that you could create an incredible display just by having a few different like
and
ones.
as I say, you could, like the ones we've got there, or there's multiple different varieties that all shapes and sizes. But if you do want one that looks like a pumpkin, you can still grow like your Crown Princes and your Hubbards and things that look like a pumpkin.
Oh, so the Rouge Vive d'Antan, as I keep going on, and there's a couple of other sort of Cinderella type pumpkins, and they are just beautiful. Yeah. They're like out of a fairy tale book, pumpkin, horse-drawn, Cinderella. You get the general gist. But
yeah. So there's plenty of alternatives, and then they taste much better too. They store for much longer, and are generally just much better in kind of every way. Apart from the fact that I think if you wanted to completely carve them, take out the central flesh, and then put a light or something in there, you could then use that to create a dish. Use it for a few days, and then you could use the rest of it later or something like that. But I think it's just to be mindful of the amount of wastage, and realistically, a squash will do the same job. And if you're in Ireland, you might use a turnip instead. You
are obviously plant-based, and when I cook squash, I like make things with, creamy soups, or I'll put it with, I love a roasted butternut squash risotto with like
nice
a little bit of sage and crispy bacon on top. How do you like to cook yours?
Like that. It's probably one of my favourite ways, but without the bacon.
Oh, in a risotto, yeah?
Yeah. Really like risotto. Generally, I add them to all sorts, just as kind of like a nice like a chili, for example, put them in a chili. Soup. Various things, really.
Actually, you can't beat a butternut squash soup.
No.
Or a delicious squash soup. I was actually going to try and make some vegan pumpkin brownies for today, but I just ran out of time yesterday and slightly was motivated by all these little googly-eyed decorations, which is obviously not really in keeping with the general vibe, but I just, sometimes you've got to have a bit of fun. And I was going to put, they're edible sweets that look like eyes from the supermarket. But anyway, we'll just have to imagine that. And if you're listening, you don't even know the difference. You can just imagine they're here on the table. But I imagine as well, it's quite good in like baking because vegetables anyway are quite good. You obviously got carrot cake and beetroot cake, but quite good in plant-based baking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't do a lot of it, but they can be used.
Indeed. I'm sold, Jamie. I'll be, as you can see, I've already started carving this butternut squash. So tomorrow it's going to be squash galore around my place.
Just squash, no pumpkins.
No pumpkins.
So we haven't really given much time for you at home to decide whether you want a squash or a pumpkin, but for next year, maybe swap the pumpkin for a squash. And if you do use a squash this year, definitely send us a picture, either to homegrown@joypeddlers.com or there's the social links below, tag us, and we'd love to see them. Yeah,
I'd love a little story of, with people's photos of sort of painted squashes and crown princes decorated, a la Jamie's suggestion. I love a bit of folklore, Jamie. And we're doing an episode about pumpkins and squash the day before Halloween. So it's time to talk about Halloween. What do you know about the origins of Halloween?
All Hallows Eve.
Correct.
Yeah, not a huge amount. Other than, that.
Okay, well, are you ready?
Yeah.
I've previously talked about some of the folklore around various markings in the year that date back to sort of pagan traditions, things like midsummer, the equinoxes, and actually Halloween fits into that wheel of the year. So the origins of Halloween are actually in a kind of Celtic pagan festival that dates back over 2,000 years, which is called Samhain. And it marks the end of the harvest, bringing in the cows from the fields. And often at that time of year, there was this idea that there's a thinning between the kind of spirit world and spirits can cross over. So that's the origins of it. And there would be lots of kind of festivities and big bonfires and feasting and that kind of thing. So the basis for lots of the things that we see in the calendar are from like pagan and Celtic traditions. And then Christianity arrives in the UK. And what happens repeatedly is that Christian festivals are put where there are existing traditions. So the 31st was Samhain, 31st of October. And so the 1st of November becomes All Souls, which turns the day before All Souls into All Hallows Eve. And so it's that relationship between the original Celtic festival. Then you get the Christian celebration the next day, which turns that original Samhain into All Hallows Eve. And you can see it's not a far jump between All Hallows Eve and Halloween. So that's kind of how the evolution has happened, and also how we've retained some of that sense of the spooky. And actually, if you think about it, it's also to do with harvests. And that time of year is when you're bringing in kind of a lot of sort of end of summer autumnal veg. So it makes kind of perfect sense how it's evolved over the years. And particularly since the 80s in this country, we've adopted more or less kind of American traditions around Halloween, the trick-or-treating, the pumpkins. And actually that still has its roots in the Samhain of the British Isles, which is that the Scottish and Irish immigrants into America had a tradition of carving turnips for All Hallows Eve, Halloween. And when they arrived in America, they were like, why have we been carving these turnips when pumpkins make a much better vegetable to carve, or indeed fruit? And so that is what combined that tradition of kind of Halloween with veg that was available in North America, and then you get your pumpkin traditions. And obviously we have taking it back from America 100 years later through probably a lot of Hollywood films and and a love of free chocolate. So
they do make a better carving fruit than a turnip does. Turnip's obviously a vegetable, but
I think if you're going to carve anything, a pumpkin over a turnip,
a squash
over a turnip.
But I've seen some of the turnips and they are pretty scary.
I can imagine. Can you put a candle inside it?
I don't think so. I think they're quite hard to hollow out. I think the only ones I've seen have been quite like terrifying, just like scratched faces into a turnip. But if you've
given it a go,
and you've got a really nicely carved turnip, then do send us a picture. Details below.
Have you ever seen those incredible, like where they do it with pumpkins, but there's other vegetables as well, like using scalpels to literally carve like faces into the surface of vegetables?
Yeah. So they grow, do you mean?
No. Like there's just amazing carving that people do into, these sorts of things.
Yeah, and then people put like things inside like different boxes so that they'll grow to that shape.
I've seen that. Yeah, they're cool. I saw someone who'd done like a Frankenstein head around a squash and then it came out looking like a Frankenstein head.
I saw online who'd got the chickens to carve their pumpkin. I think they'd like scraped the face and then the chickens had gone and then pecked away.
They pecked it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that too. God, we both just consume the same content, don't we? But there you go, from kind of pagan Celtic traditions into Christian traditions, and then transported to America by the Irish and the Scots, and then brought back from America to the UK by the power of Hollywood movies. That is the sort of history of Halloween.
And let's now turn away from the pumpkins and bring in the squash.
There you go.
The next level in the transition?
I think so, yeah. Well, I, for one, Jamie, am very excited about Halloween tomorrow, and even more so now that I have been converted to having a squash instead of a pumpkin.
I'm excited to see what you do with the squash.
Well, you wait.
The tromboncinos could make quite an interesting... You can have that one if you want. You can take that home with you. And
I'll create a sort of scary snake.
And we all want to see what you do with it. Yeah, it could be a snake, couldn't it? It could be like a little like demon snake.
I actually was visiting a garden recently that had lots of these growing, and the ladies there were using small orange aubergines to make eyes, and we're going to go and drop it off with one of their colleagues as a sort of vegetable serpent.
Nice.
Can I just make a suggestion? If you've got 15 or 20 of these, so for people who are only listening, the tromboncino is this curly snake-like, that's just a rubbish one that I grew, so that can go. But they can come in all sort of tangled shapes. So why don't you make a nest of Halloween snakes?
A nest of Halloween snakes. Okay.
God, you could paint them with like different colours. God, that'd be good. Come on, like...
I'll maybe make one.
You could do, but
I could make like a Medusa of tromboncinos, couldn't I?
You don't want any kids knocking on the door to get trick or treat, but I'm telling you, if you put a nest of tromboncino snakes,
if the knocking, but it's just put that at the entrance of the house. It'd be funny. Okay, we'll see.
Will you send me a picture?
And this one, as I said, this one's the smallest, and they're all different shapes, sizes. They've kind of made like big C shapes, big S shapes, and so there's all sorts of different.
Well, you're just agreeing with me. This idea of the Halloween snake nest is just getting better. So I hope, you've convinced me on the squashes. I hope I've convinced you a little bit on
the snakes,
on Halloween.
On Halloween,
really just getting involved on this gorgeous autumnal event. Roast a few chestnuts. Watch a scary film and make a nest of Halloween tromboncino squashes, please, Jamie.
Okay, we'll see.
If you don't.
This will be the last podcast.
I'll make Halloween really scary. No. I think that's it for pumpkins and squash.
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah, we didn't actually bring a pumpkin in for...
No, well, I bought...
You bought tiny little stuffed ones. But, yeah.
That's because we think pumpkins are rubbish, Jamie, don't
Yeah,
you?
rubbish.
Chuck them in the bin. No, don't chuck them in the bin. Don't get them in the first place.
Take them to a wildlife sanctuary, make some soup, or buy a squash.
Release them into the wild.
Yeah.
No. So if you're into Halloween, have a wonderful Halloween this week.
And if you're not, just have a nice random day.
And maybe a bowl of butternut squash risotto.
Yeah, definitely some squash. So I hope everyone's been converted to squashes over pumpkins. Let us know if you've enjoyed the episode. If you have any pictures of squash or even pumpkins, I suppose, you could send them to homegrown@joypeddlers.com or tag us on socials, which will be underneath. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Share with a friend, subscribe, like, and all those things. And we'll see you next time.
And in case Jamie doesn't make a nest of Halloween tromboncino snakes, if there's anyone out there who has got a lot of tromboncinos and wants to make me really delighted, if you'd like to decorate them as snakes and send a photo in, I would really appreciate that. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.